The projector hummed to life before anyone could stop me. My sister's face filled the screen, her lips pressed against someone who wasn't her fiancé. The gasps started immediately, rolling through the reception hall like thunder. I stood near the back exit, thumbs still on the remote, watching her perfect wedding dissolve into chaos. She spun toward me, face drained of color, mouth opening and closing without sound. Her fiancé stood frozen at the altar, bouquet sliding from the maid of honor's hands. My mother's scream cut through the silence sharp enough to shatter glass. But I didn't move. I had spent 18 months planning this moment, collecting evidence, waiting for the perfect opportunity. She had destroyed my wedding day with a speech that painted me as the villain. Now 300 guests watched her secrets play across a screen she couldn't shut off. My father pushed through the crowd toward the equipment, but the video kept rolling. Every stolen kiss, every whispered promise, every lie she'd built her life around now exposed under crystal chandeliers and white roses. I had tried being reasonable. I had tried talking. I had tried forgiveness. This was what came after Patience died. Growing up, my sister Vanessa was the sun everyone orbited around. She got the bigger bedroom with bay windows overlooking the garden. I got the converted storage space near the garage. Her birthday parties filled the backyard with bouncy castles and magicians. Mine were quiet dinners with store-bought cake. Teachers smiled when she walked into classrooms. They checked their attendance sheets twice when I introduced myself. Our parents called her ambitious. They called me practical. She joined clubs and sports teams. I worked part-time jobs and saved money. When she wanted piano lessons, they appeared within a week. When I asked for art supplies, they suggested I could buy them myself. I learned early that wanting things openly meant disappointment, so I stopped wanting things where anyone could see. I built a life in the spaces between her spotlight and their expectations. My accomplishments were mentioned in passing during family dinners. Hers were announced before the meal even started. I graduated with honors. She graduated with applause. The pattern was set before I understood what patterns were. I wasn't jealous exactly. I was just tired of being the background character in someone else's story. I met Daniel at a coffee shop on a Tuesday morning. He ordered black coffee and sat near the window with a notebook. I ordered tea and sat 3 tables away with my laptop. We existed in the same space for 40 minutes before he asked if I had a phone charger. That simple question became a conversation. The conversation became lunch. Lunch became months of discovering someone who actually listened when I spoke. He didn't compare me to anyone. He didn't glance over my shoulder looking for someone more interesting. When I talked about my work as a graphic designer, he asked questions that proved he was paying attention. He remembered small details I mentioned once. He showed up when he said he would. There was no performance, no hidden agenda, just steady presence. 6 months later, he proposed in the same coffee shop where we met. Nothing elaborate, just him kneeling beside my chair during the morning rush, holding a simple ring and asking if I wanted to build something permanent together. I said yes before he finished the question. For the first time in my life, something felt entirely mine. Not borrowed, not shared, not overshadowed. Just mine. Planning the wedding felt like threading needles in the dark. My mother wanted a big ceremony. Daniel's family preferred something intimate. Vanessa offered to help coordinate, insisting she knew the best vendors. I hesitated, remembering every time her help had somehow become about her. But my mother insisted family should be involved. So Vanessa joined the planning meetings, her opinions loud and confident. She questioned every choice I made. The flowers were too simple. The venue was too small. The dress I chose wasn't dramatic enough. My mother nodded along, asking if I wanted to reconsider. Daniel squeezed my hand under the table during those conversations, silent support that kept me anchored. We compromised where we could. We held firm where it mattered. The wedding would be small, personal, ours. 75 people, a garden venue, simple decorations. Nothing extravagant, nothing borrowed from someone else's vision. 2 weeks before the ceremony, Vanessa called late at night. She had met someone, she said. Someone serious. She wanted to bring him to the wedding. I hesitated, sensing something off in her tone. But I agreed because saying no felt petty. That decision would become the first thread that unraveled everything I had carefully stitched together. The wedding day arrived with clear skies and mild temperatures. Daniel looked nervous and happy standing near the archway. My father walked me down the aisle, his hand steady on my arm. Guests turned in their seats, smiling. Everything felt surreal and perfect and fragile. The ceremony went smoothly. We exchanged vows I had written at 3 a.m, words that felt too big for my throat but necessary. Daniel slipped the ring onto my finger, his hands shaking slightly. The officiant pronounced us married. We kissed while people clapped. The reception began with dinner and dancing. Daniel's father gave a toast about love and patience. My mother dabbed her eyes with a tissue. Then Vanessa stood, glass raised, smile bright. My stomach dropped before she even started speaking. She talked about growing up together, about how I was always the responsible one, always so serious. The room chuckled politely. Then her tone shifted. She mentioned how I had always been jealous of her achievements, how I struggled with her success. My face burned. Daniel's hand found mine under the table, gripping tight. She kept going, painting me as bitter and competitive, suggesting this wedding was my attempt to finally have something of my own. By the time she finished, the room felt colder. Daniel wanted to leave immediately. His jaw was tight, eyes dark with anger. But I convinced him to stay, not wanting Vanessa to know she had gotten to me. We cut the cake with frozen smiles. We danced while I felt everyone's eyes measuring me against her words. My aunt pulled me aside during dessert, asking if everything was okay between Vanessa and me. I lied and said yes. My mother never approached to apologize or clarify. She stood near Vanessa, laughing at something someone said. That night, in our hotel room, I finally cried. Daniel held me while I shook with humiliation and rage. He asked if I wanted to confront her. I said no. Confrontation would give her another stage. Silence felt safer. But sleep didn't come easily. I replayed the speech over and over, hearing the laughter, feeling the shift in the room. She had taken my wedding, my moment, and turned it into evidence of my inadequacy. The next morning, we left for our honeymoon. 10 days in a cabin upstate, away from phones and family. Daniel tried to make it perfect. But Vanessa's words followed me like shadows. I smiled during hikes. I laughed during dinners. But underneath, something harder was forming. Something patient and cold. We returned home to messages from family asking if I was okay. My mother called, saying Vanessa meant well, that I was being too sensitive. My father suggested I let it go, that holding grudges only hurt myself. Nobody asked if Vanessa planned to apologize. Nobody acknowledged she had done anything wrong. I stopped answering their calls. Daniel suggested we focus on building our life together, that their opinions didn't matter. He was right, but anger doesn't vanish just because someone tells you to release it. I threw myself into work, taking on extra projects, staying late at the office. Anything to avoid thinking about my ruined wedding day. 3 weeks after we returned, Vanessa called. Her voice was bright, excited. She was engaged. The man she had brought to my wedding had proposed. She wanted me to be happy for her, to celebrate this new chapter. I congratulated her with a voice that sounded like mine but felt borrowed. She talked for 20 minutes about the proposal, the ring, the plans. I made appropriate sounds at appropriate moments. When she finally hung up, I sat in silence, staring at my phone. Then I opened my laptop and started searching. Security cameras, photography packages, vendor contacts. If she wanted a wedding, she would have one. But this time, I wouldn't be the one left humiliated. My plan started small, just curiosity at first. I wanted to understand who Vanessa's fiancé was. His name was Trevor, a sales manager at a tech company. Social media showed a clean-cut guy with an easy smile. Photos of him and Vanessa together, captions about soulmates and forever. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. I recognized the performance because I had watched Vanessa curate her image for years. Something about Trevor's smile in those pictures felt strained, like he was trying to convince himself as much as everyone else. I started paying attention whenever Vanessa mentioned him. She talked about his job, his apartment, his family. But she never talked about him. Not really. No quirks or habits or small moments that showed actual intimacy. Just surface facts arranged to sound like love. 2 months after her engagement, I saw them at a restaurant across town. I was meeting a client nearby when I spotted Vanessa through the window. But Trevor wasn't with her. A different man sat across from her, leaning close, his hand covering hers on the table. They laughed together, easy and familiar. My client was still talking, but I stopped hearing words. I watched Vanessa and this stranger for 10 minutes before they left together. She kissed him outside the restaurant. Not a friendly peck, a real kiss. I didn't tell anyone what I saw. Not Daniel, not friends, nobody. Instead, I started documenting. I hired a private investigator, a woman named Kelly who specialized in discreet surveillance. She was professional, direct, asking only necessary questions. I gave her Trevor's information and Vanessa's schedule. Within 2 weeks, Kelly had confirmed what I suspected. Vanessa was seeing someone else. His name was Colin, a photographer she had met during a work event. They met twice a week at his apartment. They texted constantly. Kelly provided photos, timestamps, everything organized in a folder that felt heavier than it should. I sat in my home office, staring at the evidence. Part of me wanted to march to Vanessa's apartment and throw the folder at her feet. But another part, the part that remembered my wedding day, stayed quiet. Revenge delivered hot fades quickly. Revenge served cold lasts forever. I paid Kelly to keep monitoring. More meetings, more photos, more proof. I organized everything chronologically, building a timeline of betrayal. Meanwhile, Vanessa called weekly with wedding updates. She had chosen a venue, a sprawling estate with gardens and a ballroom. 250 guests. Spring ceremony, 6 months away. She wanted everything elegant, expensive, memorable. I listened and made supportive noises. I even offered to help with planning when she asked. Vanessa's wedding preparations consumed her life. She talked about nothing else. Dress fittings, flower arrangements, menu tastings. My mother joined every planning session, offering opinions and enthusiasm she had never shown for my wedding. They spent weekends visiting venues and meeting with vendors. I was included in group messages but rarely invited to actual meetings. I had my own planning to do. Kelly's surveillance continued. The affair with Colin intensified. They were meeting 3, sometimes 4 times a week. Vanessa's texts to him were explicit, promising things she would never deliver to Trevor. She complained about Trevor in those messages, calling him boring and predictable. She said the wedding was about the status, the photos, the performance. Colin responded with emojis and brief acknowledgements. He wasn't interested in her complaints. He was interested in what she offered during those apartment visits. I read every message Kelly provided, my disgust growing alongside my determination. Trevor deserved to know. But telling him privately felt insufficient. Vanessa had humiliated me publicly. She would face the same. 4 months before her wedding, I approached the venue she had chosen. I met with the event coordinator, claiming I was helping plan a surprise element for the reception. I asked about their audiovisual setup, about projectors and screens. The coordinator was helpful, showing me everything. I took notes carefully, memorizing details I would need later. Daniel finally asked what I was working on late at night. I had been spending hours in my office with the door closed, organizing files and planning timelines. He wasn't suspicious exactly, just curious. I told him I was working on a personal project, something I needed to finish before I could explain. He trusted me enough not to push. but I saw the questions in his eyes. Our marriage was strong despite everything. We had dinner together every night. We talked about work and future plans. But I was keeping something from him, and that distance created a small crack between us. I wanted to tell him. I wanted to show him the evidence and explain my plan. But involving him felt unfair. If this went wrong, I wanted the consequences to land only on me. So I kept working alone, refining every detail. Kelly delivered one final report in January. Vanessa and Colin had been recorded during one of their meetings. Video, not just photos. Clear footage of them together in his apartment. No ambiguity, no way to explain it away. I paid Kelly her final fee and thanked her for the thorough work. She asked if I was sure about whatever I was planning. I said yes. She nodded once and left. I spent that night organizing everything into a single video file. Timestamps, locations, context. Everything Trevor and the wedding guests would need to understand exactly who Vanessa was. March arrived with warming weather and Vanessa's final wedding preparations. She was stressed, snapping at vendors and family members. My mother called asking me to be patient with her, to remember how overwhelming wedding planning could be. I agreed pleasantly, offering to help however I could. Vanessa accepted, assigning me small tasks that kept me involved but not central. Perfect for what I needed. I volunteered to coordinate with the audiovisual team at the venue. Vanessa barely listened when I offered, distracted by seating charts. My mother approved, relieved someone was handling that detail. I contacted the venue's technical coordinator, explaining I wanted to prepare a special video tribute for the reception. Something to play during dinner, celebrating the couple's journey. He was enthusiastic, offering to help set everything up. We scheduled a meeting 2 days before the wedding. I would bring the video file on a flash drive. He would load it into their system and queue it up for the right moment. I confirmed the projector would be visible from every seat in the ballroom. He assured me it would be. Everything was falling into place. I just needed to deliver the file and wait for the ceremony. Meanwhile, Vanessa texted daily with updates and complaints. I responded with supportive messages, playing the role she expected. She never suspected. I was practical, responsible, boring. Not someone who planned elaborate revenge. The night before Vanessa's wedding, I barely slept. Daniel lay beside me, breathing steady and even. I stared at the ceiling, running through every step of my plan. The flash drive was in my purse, loaded with the video I had spent months preparing. The venue coordinator expected me tomorrow afternoon for the final technical check. Everything was ready. But doubt crept in during those dark hours. What if this was too much? What if I was becoming the villain Vanessa had painted me as? What if destroying her wedding made me just as bad? I thought about my own wedding day. The humiliation of her speech. The way my mother never defended me. The way everyone laughed while my moment dissolved. I thought about Trevor, about to marry someone who treated him like a prop. I thought about Colin, who didn't care that Vanessa was engaged. I thought about the pattern Vanessa had established, taking what she wanted without considering who she hurt. And the doubt faded. This wasn't cruelty. This was truth. I wasn't destroying her wedding. I was revealing who she had always been. The people in that ballroom deserved to know what they were celebrating. Trevor deserved to make an informed choice. And I deserved to watch Vanessa face consequences for once in her carefully curated life. Morning came. I got up, showered, dressed in simple clothes. Daniel asked if I was okay. I kissed him and said yes. The wedding venue looked beautiful in afternoon light. White chairs arranged in perfect rows. Flowers everywhere, expensive and delicate. Staff members rushed through final preparations. I arrived with my purse over my shoulder, flash drive tucked safely inside. The technical coordinator met me near the ballroom entrance. He was cheerful, excited to help make the reception special. I handed him the drive, labeled Wedding Tribute. He loaded it into the computer connected to the projection system. The screen descended from the ceiling, massive and impossible to ignore. He tested the file, playing the first few seconds. Vanessa's face appeared, smiling at the camera. Perfect. He stopped the playback and set the cue point. During dinner, after the toasts, before the cake cutting, I confirmed the timing and thanked him. He asked if I wanted to review anything else. I said no. Everything was exactly as it needed to be. I left the venue and drove home. Daniel was getting ready for the ceremony. We were invited guests, expected to arrive at 5. I put on the dress I had chosen weeks ago. Simple, elegant, forgettable. Daniel straightened his tie and asked if I was sure I wanted to go. I said yes. He nodded, trusting me even though I could see questions in his eyes. We arrived at the venue as other guests were filing in. My mother waved from near the entrance. My father stood beside her, greeting people. Vanessa was somewhere inside, probably adjusting her dress one final time. Trevor stood near the altar, looking nervous and hopeful. I found our seats in the middle section. Not too close, not too far. Perfect for watching everything unfold. The ceremony began precisely on time. Music played while the wedding party walked down the aisle. Bridesmaids in lavender dresses. Groomsmen in dark suits. Then Vanessa appeared, wearing a gown that probably cost more than my entire wedding. She looked perfect, glowing, radiant. My mother cried. Guests turned in their seats, cameras raised. Vanessa walked slowly, savoring every moment of attention. She reached Trevor, who smiled at her with genuine affection. My stomach twisted. He really loved her. He had no idea what was coming. The officiant began the ceremony with standard words about love and commitment. Vanessa and Trevor exchanged vows they had written themselves. Hers were beautiful, poetic, completely fake. His were sincere, vulnerable, real. I felt Daniel's hand find mine. He squeezed gently, a question without words. I squeezed back, trying to reassure him. They exchanged rings. The officiant pronounced them married. They kissed while everyone applauded. Then we moved to the ballroom for the reception. The space was stunning. Crystal chandeliers, white linens, centerpieces that belonged in magazines. Our assigned table was near the back. Perfect. We sat while servers brought the first course. Trevor's father gave a toast about family and partnership. My mother spoke about watching Vanessa grow into a beautiful woman. She didn't mention me once. Then came the moment I had been waiting for. The technical coordinator approached the podium. He announced a special tribute video celebrating the couple's journey. The lights dimmed. The screen descended. The projector hummed to life. For 5 seconds, everything was normal. Vanessa and Trevor appeared on screen, a photo from their engagement party. Soft music played underneath. Guests smiled, settling back to watch. Then the image changed. Vanessa appeared again, but this time she was in Colin's apartment. The timestamp was visible in the corner. 3 months ago. She was laughing at something off camera. Then Colin entered the frame. He kissed her. Not a friendly kiss. A deep, intimate kiss that left no room for misinterpretation. The ballroom went silent. Someone gasped. The video continued. More footage, different dates, same pattern. Vanessa and Colin together, touching, kissing, talking. Audio played of her complaining about Trevor, calling him boring, saying the wedding was just for show. The silence stretched and broke. Vanessa screamed, a sound so sharp it cut through the music still playing. She lunged toward the projection equipment, but she was too far away. Trevor stood frozen at the head table, face drained of color. My mother's hand covered her mouth. My father started toward the technical booth, but the coordinator stood confused, unsure what was happening. The video played for 90 seconds total. 90 seconds of undeniable proof. Then it ended. The screen went black. The lights came back up. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. 300 people sat in perfect silence, processing what they had just witnessed. Vanessa spun around, searching the room. Her eyes found mine immediately. She knew. Of course she knew. I was the only person who would do this. The only one with motive and patience. She started toward me, heels clicking against the floor. Her face was twisted, makeup running, fury radiating from every movement. Daniel stood, putting himself between us. But I stepped around him. I had started this. I would face it. Vanessa stopped 3 feet away. You, she hissed. You did this. I didn't deny it. I didn't explain. I just looked at her, calm and steady. She raised her hand like she might hit me. My father grabbed her arm, pulling her back. Trevor remained at the head table, staring at nothing. His best man touched his shoulder, trying to offer comfort. But Trevor shook him off, standing slowly. He looked at Vanessa with devastated eyes. Is it true? He asked. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. Vanessa turned to him, tears streaming. Trevor, I can explain. Is it true? He repeated. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came. Because there was no explanation that would change what everyone had seen. Trevor nodded once, like something inside him had broken cleanly. He walked out. Just walked straight through the ballroom doors without looking back. Half the groomsmen followed him. The ballroom erupted into chaos. People talking, shouting, questioning. My mother was crying. My father was yelling at the technical coordinator. Vanessa stood in the center of it all, her perfect wedding dissolving around her. Security arrived within minutes, asking who was responsible for the video. I raised my hand before anyone could point. The head of security asked me to come with him. Daniel started to follow, but I told him to wait. This was mine to handle. They took me to a small office near the kitchen. 2 security officers, the venue coordinator, and the owner of the estate. They asked what had happened. I explained calmly. I had provided a video file. The content was factual, not fabricated. Everything shown was real. The venue owner was furious. This was disrupting their event, damaging their reputation. I apologized for the disruption, but not for the content. The security officer asked if I understood I could face legal consequences. I said I did. They took my information and said someone would be in touch. Then they escorted me back to the ballroom. The reception had completely fallen apart. Half the guests were gone. Others clustered in groups. Vanessa was nowhere visible. My parents stood near the entrance with her bridesmaids, all of them looking shaken. Daniel waited by our table. When he saw me, relief flooded his face. We left immediately, not speaking until we reached the car. Only then did Daniel ask what I had done. I told him everything. The investigation, the evidence, the plan. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I understand why you did it. But you should have told me. He was right. I had kept him in the dark, protecting him from my choices. That wasn't fair. I apologized. He accepted it, but something had shifted between us. Trust damaged, even slightly, takes time to repair. My phone exploded with messages before we even got home. My mother called 6 times. My father left voicemails demanding I call back immediately. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all weighing in. Most were angry, calling me vindictive and cruel. Some were quietly supportive, saying Vanessa got what she deserved. I turned off my phone and sat in silence. Daniel made dinner while I tried to process what I had done. The plan had worked perfectly. Vanessa's lies were exposed. Trevor was free from a marriage built on deception. But sitting in my living room, surrounded by quiet, I felt hollow. Not regretful exactly. Just empty. Revenge was supposed to feel satisfying. It just felt like the end of something I couldn't get back. Daniel brought me tea. We sat together on the couch, not talking, just existing in the same space. Around midnight, my mother showed up at our door. Daniel answered, and I heard her voice sharp and demanding. She stood on our doorstep, mascara streaked, eyes red. "How could you?" she asked. "How could you do that to your own sister?" I didn't answer immediately. I wanted to ask how she could have let Vanessa humiliate me at my wedding. How she could have stood by while my moment was destroyed. But I was too tired. "She was lying to everyone," I said quietly. "Trevor deserved to know. You destroyed her wedding out of jealousy." I showed the truth. If that destroyed her wedding, she did that herself. My mother's face hardened. "You're not welcome in this family anymore." The words should have hurt. They didn't. She looked surprised, like she expected me to beg or apologize. When I didn't, she turned and left. The next few days passed in strange quiet. No calls from family. No messages. Just silence. Daniel went to work. I took time off, not ready to face coworkers who might have heard what happened. The story had spread quickly. Social media posts from wedding guests. Gossip traveling through shared connections. Some people reached out with support. Others with judgment. I ignored both. On the fourth day, Trevor called. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. His voice was tired, drained. He thanked me. Said he wished he had known earlier but was grateful to know it all. He had called off the marriage officially. Vanessa was staying with my parents. He had moved back to his apartment alone. I asked if he was okay. He said no, but he would be. We talked for 20 minutes. He asked about my wedding, about what Vanessa had done. I told him briefly. He apologized, saying he hadn't known. I believed him. When we hung up, I felt slightly less empty. At least one person understood. Daniel and I started couples therapy the following week. Not because we were in crisis, but because we needed help rebuilding trust. The therapist asked why I hadn't told Daniel my plan. I explained wanting to protect him. She asked if that was really protection or just control. I didn't have an answer. Daniel said he understood my anger but wished I had let him support me. That doing this alone meant I didn't trust him enough. He was right. I had kept him out, treating him like another person who might disappoint me. That wasn't fair to either of us. Weeks passed. Spring turned into early summer. The wedding disaster faded from immediate gossip into background story. My mother never called. My father sent one email asking if I planned to apologize. I didn't respond. Vanessa moved into her own apartment across town. I knew this because mutual friends mentioned it carefully. I didn't ask for details. I didn't want to know how she was rebuilding her life. Colin apparently ended things immediately after the video aired. He wanted nothing to do with the mess. Vanessa was alone, facing consequences for the first time in her life. I should have felt satisfied. I mostly felt tired. Daniel and I continued therapy. Slowly, things improved between us. He started asking about my day again, really listening. I started including him in decisions instead of handling everything alone. Our marriage wasn't broken, but it had been tested, and we were working to strengthen what remained. My work continued normally. Clients who knew what happened never mentioned it. Co-workers were carefully neutral. I threw myself into projects, finding comfort in design work where problems had clear solutions. At home, Daniel and I established new routines, small rituals that rebuilt intimacy. We talked about what family meant, about how to build something better than what we had grown up with, about choosing people who actually saw us instead of versions they wanted us to be. It was slow healing, but it was healing. 3 months after the wedding disaster, I got a letter. Not an email or text, an actual letter. Vanessa's handwriting on the envelope. I stared at it for 10 minutes before opening it. Inside was a single page. Her words were careful, formal. She didn't apologize for my wedding. She didn't take responsibility for her affair, but she acknowledged I had been telling the truth. She said she was in therapy, trying to understand why she had treated people the way she had. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She just said she understood if I never wanted contact again. I showed the letter to Daniel. He read it twice. "What do you want to do?" he asked. I didn't know. Part of me wanted to throw it away, to keep the distance that had finally brought peace. Part of me recognized that Vanessa was trying, however imperfectly. I put the letter in a drawer and didn't respond. Not yet. Maybe not ever. That was my choice to make, and I didn't owe anyone a timeline. My relationship with my parents remained frozen. They had chosen Vanessa's side, and I had accepted that choice. It hurt less than I expected. Losing people who never really saw you isn't the same as losing people who loved you properly. I focused on building family with Daniel, with friends who had supported me, with his parents, who welcomed me without judgment. Family wasn't just blood. It was the people who showed up when things got hard. Summer brought longer days and easier breathing. Daniel and I celebrated our second anniversary with a quiet dinner. He gave me a necklace with a small compass pendant. "So you always know which direction you're going," he said. I wore it constantly. Work brought new opportunities. A promotion, more responsibility, projects I was excited about. My boss mentioned how focused I had been lately. I thanked her, not explaining that focus came from finally releasing anger I had carried for too long. I started painting again, something I had abandoned years ago. Daniel set up a small studio space in our spare room. I painted abstract pieces, colors bleeding into each other without clear boundaries. It felt like therapy without words. One evening, my cousin reached out. She had always been neutral during family conflicts. She asked if I wanted to meet for coffee. I agreed, curious. We met at a cafe downtown. She told me my parents were struggling with the split, that they missed me but didn't know how to bridge the gap. I listened without interrupting. She asked if I would consider reaching out. I said no, not because I was angry anymore, but because they needed to understand what they had enabled. That Vanessa's behavior had roots in their constant excusing and defending. Until they could acknowledge that, nothing would change. My cousin nodded, accepting my answer. We talked about other things after that. Her work, her kids, normal life topics. It felt good to connect without drama hanging over us. Fall arrived with cooling temperatures. Daniel and I started talking about moving. Our apartment felt small, too connected to old memories. We wanted something new, something we chose together without family input. We found a house on the outskirts of the city. Small yard, updated kitchen, space for my studio and his home office. We made an offer and it was accepted. Moving day was chaotic but happy. Friends helped carry boxes. Daniel's parents brought lunch. We unpacked slowly, finding places for everything. In our new bedroom, hanging the compass necklace on my dresser, I felt something settle. Not forgiveness exactly. Not even full healing. Just acceptance. I had done what I needed to do. I had exposed truth others wanted hidden. I had protected someone who deserved better. And I had lost people who were never really mine to keep. The cost had been high, but it had also been necessary. I thought about reaching out to Vanessa sometimes. But then I remembered my wedding day. The laughter. The humiliation. The way my mother never defended me. And I let the impulse pass. Maybe someday forgiveness would come. Maybe it wouldn't. Either was acceptable. I had learned that closure didn't require reconciliation. It required releasing the need for people to become who you wished they were. Daniel called from downstairs. Dinner was ready. I went down, leaving the past where it belonged. Behind me, in a drawer, in memories that no longer controlled my present. Looking back now, I understand what I did and why. My sister destroyed something precious to me. I returned that destruction in kind. Some people called it justice. Others called it revenge. Maybe it was both. The truth is more complicated than either label. I learned that boundaries aren't cruelty. That exposing lies isn't the same as creating them. That protecting yourself sometimes means letting others face the consequences they created. My relationship with Daniel grew stronger. We learned to communicate through difficulty instead of around it. We built something solid on the foundation of honesty. Even when honesty was uncomfortable, my career flourished. My friendships deepened. My life became mine in ways it never was when I was still trying to earn love from people who saw me as secondary. I think about my wedding sometimes. The speech that started everything. The way my joy was stolen and nobody defended me. But I also think about Vanessa's wedding. The moment truth filled that ballroom. The silence before chaos. The look on her face when she realized there were consequences. I don't regret it. Not the planning, not the execution, not the aftermath. I regret that it was necessary. That my family created an environment where this was the only language anyone understood. But if I had to do it again, I would. Because sometimes the only way to be heard is to speak so loudly that silence becomes impossible. And sometimes the only way to reclaim your dignity is to stop asking for permission to protect it.